that is the best way to leverage, money. Your money can only go so far. Other people's money can go much further, right? And when you're able to offer a return on investment to investors, right, they're also using the power of leverage as well, right? Like when you as an investor invest in a real estate syndication deal, it's not like, oh man, I'm getting the short end of the stick. It's like, no, I am leveraging other people's time to make my money move for me. Hello and welcome to another episode of Real Estate Roundtable with MRTG Capital. My name is Tom Goodge, and as always, I'm here. Wait, I'm not actually. We're here together in spirit, at least, brother. I'm here with Mike Rohm, my friend and business partner. How's it going over there?
Yeah, fantastic. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. I have to say, dude, it's kind of weird. I'm sitting where you should be sitting, looking over you, and now we're like this. So that's cool. It's a little different. I'll have to get used to it.
I was going to say that usually I'm looking to the side and looking at you, then back to the camera. So it's great talking straight to you.
Yeah, and I thought about that, right? Like when we get back in the studio together, we probably should figure out just how we, get across from each other or what have you, figure out the logistics in the podcast studio for that. Because I was like, this isn't always the best, but it's all right.
That's right. We'll figure it out.
So good deal. Yeah, we've been away for a little while, and for those who tune in, it's been for good reason. It's been for awesome reasons. It's been for business reasons, right? So as always, this podcast is talking about real estate. We sometimes dabble a little bit in talking about businesses as well, because we do own businesses. Real estate is a business, but traditional business we talk about. And one thing that's been kind of cool, we've had to not pivot, right? Because we've been walking properties, going through properties as we normally do. But we had the opportunity to actually partner, we'll say, with someone who's a heavyweight in the real estate industry. And the partnership in the very beginning, though, was one where we were requested to actually open a business in the restaurant and open up a golf simulator business. So that was something that's new to both of us, but we're like, hey, to make good connections, why not, right?
Absolutely. That's what it's all about is building those relationships, doing things that still cash flow. It's all relevant to our goals and what we're looking to do.
It absolutely is. And well, and the funny thing is too, right? Like obviously anything that we do, we want to leverage other people's money because that is the best way to leverage, money, right? Then your money can only go so far. Other people's money can go much further, right? And when you're able to offer a return on investment to investors, right, they're also using the power of leverage as well, right? Like when you as an investor invest in a real estate syndication deal, it's not like, oh man, I'm getting the short end of the stick. It's like, no, I am leveraging other people's time to make my money move for me, right? And in this case, though, for starting this business, it was fun, right? Like we were able to leverage one of our real estate assets, do a cash out refinance on it, and that money goes 6 ways to Sunday, right, for other investments. But one of the areas was to fund this business. And how fun is that, right? Real estate is funding this business.
Right. And it's still our common goal. We're providing something to the community, whether it's housing or extracurricular activities. Fun is really what it comes down to. It's a service that is needed, or entertainment, a form of entertainment. So one way or another, we're still serving the community in what we're offering. So it's still under the umbrella of our personal and professional goals.
Absolutely. And this one is a little self-serving, I will have to say, right? Because you have your vacation homes down in the area, and you always said, like, man, we need other stuff for me, for my kids to do. So we're going to be solving for that as well, which is fun.
Absolutely, especially with the son getting into golf even more. It's like great. We live in the Northeast. It's not Florida where you can go outside and golf all the time and continue practicing. So again, it's serving multiple purposes, and having fun and building relationships and meeting people in the community, and um, a lot to it.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. So outside of starting businesses, I know that we've been looking at different real estate deals, and even on our last episode, we were, talking about some of the fundamentals, getting back to basics, and
Mhm.
we're striving to get a syndication together, a deal that makes sense for investors to be able to invest in. And I know that we've been all over the place, right? I mean, there's been Columbus of all places, not of all places. I mean, it's a great area to invest. There's a lot going on out there. We were looking at properties out that way, and we still have some irons in the fire there. And we have others in Pennsylvania that are a little bit hotter right now as well. Looking at everything from, well, actually, I would say probably the coolest one. Like, we're still looking at a lot of conversions, right? Like, that's when we
Yep.
look at the market today, conversions can make a whole lot of sense as long as all of the stars align, right? Like, that's probably the hardest thing about it.
Yeah, that, and you just hit it. I mean, remember the one that we went out to view in Ohio that was a auction? Fantastic price, starting price, 92 units, fantastic. And then we started talking to the community, and everybody was on board. Everybody's fully, we need housing, we need this. It would be fantastic. We have an
How it always
overflow. We did,
starts.
yeah. We've paid, they've paid tens of thousands of dollars for these studies to show that they need housing, and then they come down to, well, each unit has to be 800 square feet. Okay, now you're cutting 92 units that are going to be, that's like 46 units. Well, now 46 units doesn't account for us to be able to pay those water bills, sewage bills, electric bills, all those things, and keep it affordable. So we have these fantastic conversations with these townships and boroughs and counties, what it comes down to. And then you find out, well, then they start putting little bits of pieces in, and it just doesn't work out. So we have, we're not just talking to one set of people from each county or township.
No.
There's multiple. And it's, we get deep into these conversations of, all right, numbers make sense at these many units, at this amount of renovation, and this is what we need to do. These are the upgrades we're going to make for those tenants because they deserve it, and this is what they need. And meeting after meeting after meeting, and then you find out just somebody else, puts their hand, I don't want to say in a cookie jar, but they put in their 2 cents, and it's like, now it doesn't work anymore. So we've had a lot of those. We've identified properties, went further, and had multiple meetings, and then find out, all right, now it doesn't make financial sense. Going from 92 units to 46, and you want affordable, it just doesn't always work that way. So, but we never know until we get deep into the evaluation and further conversations that we need to. And we spend money evaluating this on our own that nobody else sees that money go out besides me and you.
Yeah.
So it's just we've done a lot of that over the last couple months, and but that's all part of doing business. You have to do that because these are ones that we could really serve some communities, and we go down those paths, and hey, it doesn't work, or work towards some that do.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like, it's all about the investor. And it's funny when you hear someone say, oh, well, I invest in X, right? A lot of times, like, someone may be as broad as a state, and that always cracks me up, where I'm like, wow, like, do you have one just rent across the entire state? It's rhetorical. We know it's no, right? Like, you take Ohio as an example, right? Like that 92 unit that you mentioned, around there, it was like $500. The fair market rent was around $500 a unit, right? From an efficiency 1-bedroom perspective, or efficiency, not 1 bedroom, but the 1 bedroom may have been $25 more, right? Or what have you.
Right.
When they're asking, to your point, right? They're like, hey, listen, I don't understand. What's the big deal? We'll cut it down from 92 to 40 or what have you. And it's like, do you realize that we're cutting out 40 units or whatever it is, 45 units, And now the only upside that we have is $25 a unit. And we've cut out half of our units. Now, our investors went from seeing a 7% cash on cash return, and then overall the internal rate of return would have been much higher for all the other factors, but just a bare basic 7% cash on cash return now is a negative, or maybe it's 1%, right? Like it's not even worth us investing now because of your requirements. And at the end of the day, that the people that we're looking to serve, would be perfectly content with that unit in its condition after we come through, do the renovations, add the kitchenettes, do all the extra amenities. They don't need the extra 600 square feet or whatever ends up being. Like that's just a superfluous, somebody
Right.
who owns a house, has their 8 to 5 or their 9 to 5, and is just making this rolling just because.
Yep. And that's the biggest thing. We come by, and we've talked about it before, teachers, nurses. We have people who are going through divorces that need, housing for a year or two to get their credit back until they can rent a bigger place or figure out what they really want in their life. Just because they're going through a divorce doesn't mean they're already divorced. Sometimes those people get back together and they just need a spot separated to handle things and not have these big expenses. So whenever you look at it, whenever we're paying on certain properties, it depends what utilities we're paying, but a water bill per unit is easily, minimum is going to be 40 to $50 a month just on that. So whenever you start adding up these expenses and the lienable items that we're paying, like you said, if it's $500 to $600, $700 per unit and we pay the utilities, go try and find that. You cannot find a 2 or 3 bedroom house with utilities in these price ranges. And like I said, kind of full circle, they don't want this. They want to go 9 to 5. They want to, go to work, get their paychecks, live their life, get out of debt, and try and save money if that's what they're doing. But,
Right.
it's forcing them to potentially go find a bigger house, pay $800, $900 in rent, then pay your utilities. So you're at $1,100, $1,200. Then you need to cut the grass on the weekends. These people don't always want that. And that's what these communities push them to. They're pushing them to the white picket fence house and big bills and everything to keep them in the life cycle that it is. And it's these
I don't
people,
even
some
realize they're
people,
doing it though. That's the irony of it.
right. That's the problem. And it's some of these people just want to live minimalist, and some of them are homeless. They might be in a shelter. Some, again, they're just workers, regular workers, or wherever it may come from. There's just not a lot of options for housing. There's a lot of 2 and 3 bedrooms. There's not a lot of efficiency in 1 bedroom type, because not everybody wants to have a roommate or should have a roommate. Sometimes people just need quiet, So we
That's
try and solve that, and some communities welcome it, and some push more towards their narrative.
Yeah, and that's why we try to stick as well. We get a little bit more buffer, but it's not always as it's the same problems occur, right? Like when we look at the Columbus areas, right? Rent is higher, significantly
Right.
higher, and that's amazing, right? Because of all of the businesses, everything that is in there, the industry. But back to your point, we still run into the exact same issues that make it so that it's not affordable. We also run into very odd issues too, like some things that investors may not realize we run into. We've had it where there was it was a great Motel 6 that was out in and around various big businesses, the Amazons of the world, etc. It
Right.
was in a perfect parking lot by itself, right, very convenient to all of these places of employment, for thousands and thousands of jobs. And lo and behold, a township slash little town to the east of it, or I'm sorry, the west of it, which I don't even know how many miles away it was, but it's significant,
Yeah.
played a factor in not wanting certain aspects of it. So for example, hey, we do not want you to accept Section 8 vouchers, as an example. And
Right.
it's like, so what happens when the elderly person that needs a simple place to live, they can't even take care of a house, but they need affordable housing. They have a Section 8 voucher. They may have waited 6-7 years for this voucher, and now
Well,
you
yeah.
want them to have an affordable place to live. Like, but but the irony is, it's in a place where it doesn't even impact anybody. The community would be by itself, and we still have to get shut down. Where it's like, no, we need you to abide by these conditions, and it's like, wow,
That was
that's crazy.
to your point. That was part of the rezoning. They wouldn't allow us to get a rezone unless we agreed to not allowing HUD vouchers. So, as you mentioned, that's elderly, that's people on Social Security, that's disability. All these people qualify for Section 8 voucher. It does not make them any different of a tenant. It just means their income is capped by the, again, Social Security pays, it depends on your region, but usually around $988. What kind of unit can you rent with paying utilities plus a phone bill and plus cable, whatever it may be, and able to pay for all that? So, again, they tied our hands saying, we want affordable housing, but you can't accept a voucher to this property. And it's that unfortunately, that's the type of things that we run into all over the place. It just depends who's in.
It's the different personalities, right? Like,
Yeah.
Virginia was a little different, right? Like that was,
Yeah.
a little shadier, we'll say, as it relates to the reasoning behind why not wanting to accept vouchers and things of that nature. But more than willing to want us to come in and clean up all these properties for them, which is interesting.
Yeah, with no grant money, they they want you to do it on your dime, not to help out and do that. But like you said, their reasonings behind it, it's they hear that Section 8 or HUD housing on the internet somewhere that, hey, that's bad. Again, you get to screen people, you get to meet people. If they have records, you don't have to accept them, and there's certain degrees to it that you're still able to go through this, but they have that perception. None of them are landlords. None of them have rental properties who know these tenants, other tenants, anything like that. They just get their studies and say, we need it, but we don't want to help you get to the goal line.
But we don't actually want anybody to live there that needs help.
Right. Yes.
What's
Yeah. We need it so bad, but those aren't the people we want there. Yeah. Right.
People, mind you.
Right. So as you mentioned, it's all over. It's been Ohio, Virginia, South Carolina in certain areas that we've looked, Pennsylvania. You run into it everywhere, and that's why we just have to do our due diligence and why things take time. It's just, it's not all straightforward. And you see a building, as we mentioned, the one started off the auction, very reasonable. It was getting to be very expensive of a renovation. They saw that was going to be big dollars put into their community. Taxes would have been raised by what we were proposing. We were going to take out, there was a lot of hotels in the area, hotels and motels. This one was not being utilized. So now that would have pushed even the other businesses who were renting this cheaper motel, would have pushed them to the regular businesses. Ours would have had higher tax dollars for that asset and just had more people coming in. And it was big picture. They couldn't see it. So it's what we battle.
And our next battle up is going to be in Pennsylvania. Obviously, we can't provide details because this will hopefully be one that we will be able to run through a syndication and offer to investors. But I'm excited about it because it's unique in the sense that it was a personal care home, right? There was a large personal care facility. We'll say that, which is beautiful, by the way. Like, I'm so excited about that. But then there's mansions involved as well.
Yeah.
That, there's an additional 16 units that are available through 2 different buildings that are actually just traditional rentals at this point. Those are just kind of like little icing on the cake that are still in play. And on top of that, though, we get 64 additional units potentially. So I'm excited about that. That's one that, once again, like when you look at, okay, also for presenting to investors, obviously there is the, hey, we'll take Columbus as an example, right? Like, hey, we've
Mhm.
done due diligence, we've ensured that obviously the path of progress is there. There are the number of people that need a place to live exceed, what's available.
Yep.
The fair market rent is phenomenal, right? If you get a good deal and you're able to get in there and then make the improvements to increase the value, force the force the rent to get to where you need to from a market perspective, like those are all slam dunks, right?
Right.
Now, Pennsylvania, very much like Ohio, I would argue, right, has a few shining areas. You have the Westmoreland counties, right, like where
Oh
rent's
yeah.
great. And the one county that we're looking at, the rent at, just first glance is not what attracts you to the area. But from a need perspective, it is
There it is.
completely different, right? Like where all of a sudden, okay, hey, the senior living need that you have for long-term renter, and not, the personal care home traditional, like where
Mhm.
heavy, that's needed everywhere, right? But there is the need for affordable housing for that has, we'll say, additional amenities is the best way to put that, right? Like,
Yeah.
have the ability to have, a meal plan and things of that nature. Have a cook on site that actually offers a few things that, hey, I don't want to have to think about that as well. Because when we think about conversions, we think about,
Mhm.
okay, hey, what are we consolidating? When you convert a motel or a hotel to a multifamily apartment building, you think about, okay, great. Listen, I am giving you, like you said, right, your bare basics. I'm giving you the electric. You don't have to think about that. You don't have to think about gas if that's involved. You don't have to think about cable, even. You don't have to think about all of those other items, even down to your internet, right? We give you the Wi-Fi, SSID and the password. And people love that, right? It's, hey, it's one affordable price. It's all wrapped in. They're not getting nickeled and dimed, and they're coming into a great place to live. And there is a need, though, from an elderly perspective, to say, well, listen, I need that one step further. I don't want to have to think about paying my cable bill, but in addition to that, I also don't want to have to think about my food and what am I, having to make, and things of that nature. And that's what we would love to provide for this place.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it comes down to. A nutritionist who can provide good quality food. We're not talking about Salisbury steak, just heat it up. Like we're talking,
Yeah,
that's
it's a
what,
hard no, right? Like, no, it's like
yeah,
if we're doing it, we're doing it, right?
right. And that's, I mean, whenever you think about your parents, like we're in the baby boomer era when those folks are the aging Americans. That's where we need to find comfortable places because that's the battle whenever you start getting older. And the stigma towards it. People don't want to just put their family members in personal care homes. It's they have no loved ones around them. That's why this community that we're starting, it's not a 55 plus, but it's older who can still take care of themselves. And that's what we're looking to get past that. They can make new friends because it's hard. Say you're not driving anymore, you're still fully capable of taking care of yourself. But where do you kind of go to, interact with folks? And we know as the aging Americans, that's what you need. You still need to stay sharp. You still need to have those interactions to keep it going. And it's
Absolutely.
not just dropping you off at a personal care home and saying they'll take care of you. You're fine. It's, as we talked, it's a community to interact. Stay sharp, play puzzles, do games, do whatever you need to, but still have friends around.
Exactly.
Um, it's kind of like the elderly. I don't want to call it a dorm, but it's the interaction is what they need, and that's what we're looking for. So it's still people who can take care of themselves, but just have an oversight and have other like-minded people who are able to share in those and have dinner, have the people cooking for them. At a certain point, I know there's times that we don't like cooking for ourselves. It's the same thing. We go out to dinner, but I'll tell you, me personally, if my family's not around, I don't go out to a restaurant by myself and just sit down and eat. This is you're inviting that with the community to, hey, let's go have dinner and interaction. That's really what we're looking at.
Absolutely. So I'm stoked. I know that for
Mhm.
sure. So can't wait. We always stay ridiculously busy and I love it. All right. So we're going to have we're a little less than we're actually a little over a month away from kicking off that golf simulator business, having that kick off. In the interim, we'll have to, you know, all the I's will be dotted, T's will be crossed. From that perspective, we'll have the ribbon cutting ceremony. That'll be cool for that. But then in
Yeah.
tandem, once we're able to go through all the processes for this building, I'll be excited to get that under contract, get that rocking and rolling. And worst case scenario, like I said, I have high hopes for this as it relates to everything because this seems so close to the goal line. Worst case scenario, we go to the next. But at the end of the day, I hope that the next update could be, all right, we're getting a webinar going for this guy. Let's share this with you. Let's start getting rocking and rolling. Now, here's one thing I do want to call out there though. So, well, I know we said this in the last one, but if you haven't met with us yet, like, and you want to be a potential investor, this deal that we would be doing would be a 506B, under the SEC. So what that quite simply means, that's a friends and family filing is the best way to put that for a syndication, meaning that we can have an unlimited number of accredited investors, but we have a very finite amount of, I just had a brain fart there. Um, we can only have a finite amount of sophisticated investors for that. So that's one where we want to make sure that we need to have pre-established relationships. So if we haven't met with you, please reach out. We'll be doing that. Obviously, we'll be starting some webinars to get to know, everybody and understand your investment goals, but also would love some one-on-ones as well.
Absolutely. Like you said, it's a great way to know what people's goals are. Just because what your goals were 6 months to 12 months ago might be different now. They might 2 years ago, they might have aligned. Heck, same thing with ours. We're still, things change. The market's changing. That's why, like, I know we're getting a little more excited. Numbers are starting to make more sense than what they did last month. Interest rates have come down. They're things are absolutely changing, and visions and goals change for everybody. So, like you said, it's a conversation. You're not locked into anything. You might find out, and we've discussed this on other calls. You might find out real estate's not for you, and that's okay. It's but
Absolutely.
we got to have those conversations and to walk through it and to know how these deals, how we're finding them, how we're evaluating them, things along those lines. So it's great just to network and talk with people, because it might not be a fit for you, but you might know somebody it's a fit for, and whatnot. And maybe we're doing is educating you further, and you finding out, like, maybe you were interested and now you're like fired up like we are, but maybe you're not. So, and that's, again, it's completely okay. Um, but we
Yeah,
got to have those conversations.
exactly. No, it's just all about having those relationships and understanding what your investment goals are, because we're all over the place, right? There's real estate investing, there's business investing, and we'll find a place for your money. Don't you worry about that. We'll make you a return on your investment for sure.
So,
So, all right. Well, hey, do you have any parting thoughts or parting comments for the crew?
no, I'm excited where we figured out a remote version, having us in the same place. We're not even in the same state right now. So it's to get back to the viewers and for ourselves to keep this up. I'm glad we, figured out a great way to do this, because again, if we're not on the road together, it's hard just to take the time to drive and record. So this remote atmosphere for people, and still to put out content for them to view and learn, from us of additional things that we're doing. This has been great.
Huge. Awesome. Well, brother, as always, love spending time with you, even if it's remote. So, everyone out there, as always, stay invested and stay informed. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks.
If you would like to connect, please head on over to mrtgcapital.com and request time to meet with us to answer any questions you may have about real estate investing through a syndication. We partner with small groups of investors just like you, and we're always reviewing deals that could be of interest to you.